That was just peak Kings basketball right there. Absolute peak Kings basketball. Just some beautiful stuff, a beautiful choke job. To not foul up three there is insane. The fact that teams don't foul up three. Mike Brown, after the game, he said that they told the team to foul if they were facing away from the basket. I don't know. I guess they just should have emphasized it more. Keon Ellis had so much time where he could have fouled. I mean, he was in contact with the piston with the ball, and to not foul there. And this is just like the perfect example of why you foul, because it just minimizes your mistakes. So you foul, so then you don't have Trey Lyles chasing Malik Beasley, who has made three clutch threes for the Pistons on the perimeter. You foul up three, so you don't have Fox turning his brain off, and I don't know what he was doing, not denying Jaden Ivey in the corner when you're up three with like 4 seconds left. So the Kings lost this game because they didn't foul up three. I don't know what they were doing. You always foul up three. And I mean, that was just a spectacular loss. Fox obviously, it sucks because like Fox did everything he could to keep the team ahead. And then he was the one to make the dumb mistake. I mean, again, along with like Keon not fouling there, but Fox being off of Ivy there, and then, biting on the pump fake, which you can't really blame him for that. Once, he's already made the mistake, but now he's compounding it more by falling for the pump fake. Then he compounds it even more because he's trying to foul him before he gets into his shot, but Ivy's already in his shot. So then he doesn't try to fully foul him, which then just allows Ivy to get the shot off and get the 4-point play. Just peak Kings basketball, who have lost 5 in a row at home. 0-5 on this homestand. 5-game homestand. You lose every single one, and you're 6-12 at home. And so what I've been saying, the Kings find new ways to lose every game. They find ways to lose. With the way that Fox was playing late in this fourth quarter, I thought maybe we were getting some of those 20, 22, 23 fourth quarter vibes, just a little bit there, but then instantly no. It's just what the Kings have done with every single game, where it's just like you have this lead in the fourth quarter and you just watch it slowly disappear until all of a sudden it's gone. I mean, the Kings had multiple opportunities to kind of pull away in this game, and the offense just kind of, fell flat at times. But I could excuse that because you don't have Domantas Sabonis in this game. Like, I get it. There were some moments where, we didn't really know what we were doing because everything runs through Domas usually. It's like, I understand that. And so then you have to rely on your defense. And the Kings did that, right? They allowed, in the second quarter, 19 points. In the third quarter, which was really when their offense looked really flat, that's when they only allowed 24 points. That third quarter could have been the really bad quarter, but their defense stepped up. The fourth quarter, though, their defense did not step up. And really, one of the big problems you have when you don't have Sabonis is you have this choice between Alex Len and Trey Lyles. And it's just a pure offense or defense choice. Because when Alex Len is out there, the offense looks horrible with no spacing. The only time it looks good is when the Pistons were blitzing. The Kings were finding Alex Len on the roll, and then he was distributing from there. That was the only time it looked good. But when they were actually just trying to run the dribble handoffs through him, a lot of it would just stay on the perimeter. And so it was just a lot of Alex Len having the ball on the perimeter, Keegan Murray having the ball on the perimeter. Those are not good signs. And then you go with Trey Lyles to space out the floor. The offense gets much better. Fox has room to drive inside. And Trey Lyles had an amazing game offensively with 20 points in this game, obviously. But then you have no defense inside. So the Pistons can just like walk right in, either get a layup, or if they miss, then they're, have a good chance of getting an offensive rebound. And then you have Fox out there with Monk and DeRozan. And so if you have Lyles out there, credit to Fox, he was a great defender late. But then Keegan's your only real big plus defensively consistently. And so then that allows Malik Beasley just to be an absolute flamethrower and, just run around, and Monk is not getting any sort of contest on his shot. And so even when the Kings, kind of started to score a little bit down the stretch when Fox was taking over, still you allowed 37 points to this Pistons team. You're up 10 late. You let that go, and it comes down to the same problem that you've had for 2 years. I mean, there's just not enough defensive players on this roster. And I think you saw it early on too. The Pistons made their first 4 shots, and it was just the lack of length that was super evident. Whenever Len would stay with Duran, it was like Monk was being left as the low man. I mean, that's zero rim protection. Or when the Pistons were in transition, and again, Monk is the guy that moves into the middle of the floor. I mean, that's no deterrent, right? And so it's just that the physical lack of length on the floor that lets teams get away with so much, and just kind of lets them move the ball around with ease, or just shoot over the Kings with ease. And it's just a physical limitation that the Kings have to deal with, because that's just what they have. And especially with Sabonis out, you're not going to bench Monk or DeRozan, but it just becomes clear with every passing game, in my opinion, that this is not the lineup that you can go with. Fox, Monk, Keegan, DeRozan, even with Sabonis, it just is so clear to me that that is just not the lineup that is going to work, just because of the lack of length, the lack of defense, the lack of mobility in certain spots. It's like you look at the Thunder, it's like they played without a center. And it's like, well, how did they make up for that? It was guys flying around. It was the athleticism. It's like, well, when we have to play without a center, pretty much with Trey Lyles in there, it's like we're not making up for that with athleticism, because we still have DeMar DeRozan out there, and you're not making up with that with size in other positions, because you're playing a small shooting guard in Malik Monk. Now, that being said, the Kings still should not choke this lead. And so when you're just looking at it from a single game standpoint, you have to be just more locked in defensively at the end of a game, right? But it's hard to just look at a single game right now, just because we've been seeing this for far too long, of consistently getting the same results. And so it's like, yeah, if they would just like lock in a little bit more and not make some dumb plays down the stretch, they come away with the win in this game. But it's more than that, right? It's like we need to be able to consistently get results. And so I just don't think that we have the roster to do that right now. And that's being proven time after time. At least we got to see a good 3 quarters, though. I thought the Kings started off well, being aggressive on the inside. And Keegan was a big part of that. It was aggressiveness on the offensive glass. Alex Len was a big part of that. And Keegan had a few dunks, drove to the rim, got to the free throw line. And so Keegan, he was making good decisions. He was getting to the rim. That was very nice. We saw the rotation change with Sabonis being out, with Keon Ellis coming in so that Malik Monk could come in later with the bench unit. And I thought Keon came in and made some good things happen. He was making some nice passes. He got an offensive rebound and put in a floater. And what I really liked about what Keon provided when he came in was it felt like he was trying to make things happen on the ball. He would get the ball, and instead of just being like, I'm a 3-and-D player, and just passing the ball to whoever was next to him, trying to get rid of the ball, like, this is not my role. Like, he was staying on the ball. He was trying to make the pass that would move the offense forward instead of moving it sideways. He looked comfortable being on the ball, coming around screens, and being patient in his decision making. We also had DeMar being more aggressive early on. Obviously, after scoring 2 points against the Pistons, he easily beat that point total early in this game. You had Herter coming in, knocking down a 3 immediately. So, I mean, it felt like everything was going really well. And there wasn't much resistance from the Pistons. Like Jalen Duren was not providing any rim protection underneath. But the Pistons were keeping up, because Jaden Ivey, Kate Cunningham, they were hitting from 3. I think the Pistons started like 6 for 8 from 3 or something like that. And the Cunningham threes, the Ivy threes, it's kind of like you got to let them shoot some of those. It's more the like you allow an offensive rebound and then no one ever picks up the guy with the ball and Ivy steps back for 3. Like, that's the type of shot that you can't live with. And there were just a couple of mistakes leaving open corner shooters. So those are the ones you don't like. If Cade's going to come up and just hit a pull-up 3, It's kind of like, yeah, you let him do that. It was interesting watching Jalen Duren, though, try to go right at Alex Len offensively, and Alex Len was just like swatting him aside. It's like the one thing you can't do to beat Alex Len is just try to go straight through him. Because Alex Len is a massive dude. You're not going to go straight through him. He's just going to block you every time. But yeah, Cade was cooking. Isaac Jones came in for early backup center minutes. That went really poorly. He was just rough on both ends, just making mistake after mistake. And so after a very good start to Isaac's NBA career, he's hit a little road bump here, which is to be expected. And so he only got those 3 minutes. And I understood that because he did get an and one, but he made just some really bad mistakes defensively. And offensively, I just don't think he looked all that comfortable on the ball. And so in those situations, I think the Kings just look more effective when they just go straight pick and roll instead of dribble handoff. And I thought offensively, like DeMar and Kevin Huerter especially, both those guys were making some really nice passes. That was helping the offense look really smooth. And then, of course, on like the last offensive possession, we have Fox coming up in transition, stopping at the 3-point line, and then turning it over. And I just have to mention that because it just every single time. And this time, if you listen to me a while, I have just like some things that I get really annoyed about. Fox decided to combine two of them into one play, which was fun. So one, being in transition and stopping at the 3-point line instead of putting pressure on the defense, he picked up his dribble at the 3-point line. So the defense just sagged into the paint, not respecting his drive. He tries to make a pass to a cutting Isaac Jones. It gets, broken up. And then also just that being a turnover on the last offensive possession, leading to the Pistons getting an opportunity. And so, it was a really rough first quarter for Fox. But I thought he came out in the second quarter when he was playing with that bench unit, and he was super aggressive getting into the paint and drawing a bunch of attention. And, he wasn't trying to force things at the rim. He was making the right passes, and it was up to his teammates to convert on those passes, which hasn't always happened this season, but it did happen. Like Colby snaked his way into the mid-range and hit a long mid-range jumper, which was interesting. Don't know if I love that shot, but he knocked it down with confidence, so sure. And then you had Trey Lyles just hitting shots, making plays. And it was just, after Isaac Jones struggled, they went with Lyles at the 5, and the stretch 5 was just killing the Pistons because Duren didn't want to get out there. Nobody who was a 5 for the Pistons wanted to get out there, him or Paul Reed. And Lyles, he was just doing everything. He's catching a grenade at the end of a shot clock, hitting a 3. He was taking a charge, getting some really nice rebounds, driving to the rim, drawing fouls, using his gravity as a shooter to blow by guys. And so he's just dominating on both ends of the floor, which was really nice to see. And, kind of showing what the Kings have been missing when he's been out, or just, he's had such a rocky start to this season, injury wise, and never finding his flow when he did play. And then you had Colby Jones getting 11 minutes out there. And so it felt like that bench unit would normally kind of get shredded, but they didn't because Lyles was playing well. Colby had a really nice vertical contest that led to a transition opportunity. And like I said, he hit that mid-ranger. And so there were some positive signs there. And so that bench unit was really successful because, one, Fox was being super aggressive, driving into the paint. And that, they allowed that because it was spaced out. Guys were hitting their shots, making the right plays. And then obviously defensively, they were just being super physical and not giving the Pistons anything easy at the rim and rotating out to shooters and running them off the line. So it was a really good stint from that bench unit with Fox in there. Then the offense kind of got stagnant once the starters came back in. And, some of that has to do with not being spaced out with Alex Len at the 5. They just weren't finding ways to get downhill. And when Fox did get downhill, then he missed an open layup. And the defense wasn't good either with that unit. And so if you're not getting the stops with, Alex Len in there, then you might as well go to Trey Lyles, which they did eventually. And that kind of, they tried to open things up that way. It also felt like DeMar kind of passed up some shots that he probably should have been taking on the perimeter, and then just wasn't, he wasn't even like taking one dribble into the mid-range and shooting. he had some weird plays where he just wasn't shooting the ball. And finally, he got the ball in the corner fairly early in the shot clock. Defender draped over him. He takes that shot, and then he makes it. So I just thought the shot selection could have been better from DeMar, but it's not like he was necessarily playing poorly. I just would have liked to see even more shots from him. In the end, he takes 13 shots this game. I thought that could have been more. And then the Kings closed well, and that was really encouraging to see. The last 2:30 of the quarter was really good. And some of it was the Pistons just taking some super ill-advised shots, just running some bad offense. So that helped the Kings. And you had Lyles getting a putback, Monk hitting a three at the last second. So you went in with some really good momentum. And then, Fox had scored 1 point and we were still up big at halftime. And then he comes out in the second half, scores 7 straight. And you have Alex Len and Keegan Murray both protecting the rim really well. And both of them getting after it on the offensive glass, especially Alex Len. And so it was a very good start. But then the Kings defense was good, but the offense was just a little sloppy. They were turning the ball over, and it was just weird turnovers, just throwing the ball away in weird spots. They scored a few times in transition, but in the half court really couldn't get anything going. And like I said, it was a lot of Alex Len with the ball in the perimeter, a lot of Keegan Murray with the ball in the perimeter, not taking advantage of gaps that the Pistons were giving him. And it was really like Keegan, he started this game aggressive and he hit a three and he was doing work on the glass, but he wasn't defending Cade all that well. He had his times, but Cade was definitely matching his physicality, and so the defensive end wasn't great. And then on the offensive end, there was just so much of him being out on the perimeter, and it just kills me how he just backs up further and further when he should be getting inside and being physical. Because there were so many times where he could have attacked gaps, and he would just take a few dribbles, and it's like he could put his body into him, spin, take a shot, and he just kind of picks up his dribble, turns around, and tries to find someone to pass to. And so it was just a lot of dribbling. He needed to make a decision, attack, pull up for a mid-ranger, or put his body into someone, hit a turnaround. You can see the moves are available to him, and he just doesn't take them. And he backs out to the perimeter, and when guys try to come set a screen, he doesn't know how to handle the ball around a screen effectively. And then on top of that, he couldn't hit a three. So it was a really rough second half offensively for Keegan. He's just got to find a way to be more effective on the ball, because he found himself on the ball so much and just wasn't effective at all. And then there was a point where the Kings missed 4 good looks on jump shots, and it felt like that could have been a chance for the Pistons to make a run. DeMar missed a couple, Herter missed one, someone else missed one. But then Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham were we're Steph and Clay, and just started chucking these crazy threes. So that helped us out. I mean, that we didn't even have to play defense on those possessions. In fact, we didn't. Everyone just left Cade on one of them, but for some reason he pulled the deepest three ever. It was just weird. Horrible decision making from the Pistons. And there were multiple times where the Pistons just made awful decisions offensively. And so that makes the loss even more embarrassing, because the Pistons didn't play well in that regard. Eventually, you had Len on that short roll finding Kevin Herter, which he had done a time before, and Herter just missed, but he made that one. So it kind of felt like we won that little spurt of both teams. The Kings missing some good looks and the Pistons missing some bad looks, and so we kind of won that exchange. Then the Pistons started to get inside, draw some fouls, and the Kings were the ones drawing fouls in the first half. Pistons were the ones that were just more aggressive getting to the rim, and the Kings couldn't really figure out how to get downhill and get to the rim. Every once in a while, Fox would blow by someone and get to the rim, but they just couldn't figure out how to do it consistently without Fox just blowing by someone. Malik Beasley hit 2 threes in a row. That got it down to 12. Then we had that awful turnover out of the timeout, which I didn't even see what happened, because the camera wasn't even ready for it. So I think Monk was throwing the ball into Fox. I don't know what happened. It was weird, but somehow they turn it over, right? And Sasser just gets a layup, but then Fox gets the and one. Keegan locked up Cade on that final possession, and Sasser had a dumb foul on Lyles that gave us free throws. So we ended that well. even though, like it could have been worse. But then they came out in the fourth, and again, it was just like these sloppy turnovers. And those were the moments where it's just like, it's not like the Pistons immediately came back because of those turnovers early in the fourth. Because the Pistons had a bad turnover as well. Cade, I think, just threw the ball out of bounds. But it was those moments where the Kings didn't capitalize to push their lead even further out and really just take control of this game. And there were some good moments at the start of the fourth. Lyles had a great box out. DeMar came in, hit a midi, then he drove, kicked out to Lyles for a corner three. But then when DeMar was in there, it's kind of like if DeMar didn't have the ball, there was just no offense. And it was just a lot of standing around. Again, the ball finding Keegan on the perimeter, which killed me. There just wasn't much movement. And then you had Paul Reed knocking down a mid-ranger, then knocking down a three, then Asar Thompson coming in and knocking down a tough midi. Those are kind of like, what are you going to do moments. But the Kings' entire offense just became Keegan chucking threes because no one could really get inside at all. And the Kings just couldn't generate any good offense. So Keegan was just, it was just like, hopefully Keegan hits one of these threes, and he didn't. And he went 1 for 7 on the game from 3. But again, the Kings were still up like 10. Fox and Monk both got to the rim, and Fox just started taking over. And it really is wild because Fox, he took over on both ends. The Kings put in Lyles to, again, space it out, and that helped Fox. And Fox was scoring. He was defending really well, creating some turnovers. And so it was pretty wild that the Kings were able to blow this game despite Fox making play after play down the stretch. But they just had no rim protection inside with Lyles at the 5. And so they completely went offense instead of defense. When they had Len in there, they just weren't getting any offense. They put Lyles in. Now they're getting offense, but they have no defense. And, Lyles misses a 3. And so it's like, well, now we know we're losing points on this exchange because it's like we had to score every single time down because we couldn't get a stop. Malik Monk just couldn't fight through these screens. And it kills me every time when we have Monk on the other team's best shooters. It's happened a lot this season. And it's why coming into this season, I didn't think Monk was going to play down the stretch of games. And yet he has, and we've gotten killed for it because he's out there guarding Malik Beasley. He just dies on a screen. Beasley gets open, and then another one where Beasley just rises up right over him and there's just like no contest. And then finally the Kings decide to switch, but it's like it was a little awkward switch, and Beasley sidesteps Keegan and he's already hit 2 and he knocks that down. So he hit, 3 straight threes there. Obviously you give credit to Malik Beasley, but that's, one of the right now top shooters in the NBA. I mean, he's going to let him fly, right? So the fact that the Kings were able to play some pretty good defense on both Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham down the stretch, those weren't the guys that beat him, but you have Keegan and you have Fox, and they played some solid defense down the stretch, but it's like then you just don't have anyone else out there playing any defense. I thought Fox was going to win it for us when he saved that ball off Duren. He went down, knocked down the midi. That midi felt like clutch player of the year, De'Aaron Fox. And then, Ivy, he scored so quickly. And obviously the Kings were playing no threes, but it's just like, it always hurts when they score within like 2 seconds. But Herter knocks down the 2 free throws, which I was worried about because he hasn't been great from the line. But he knocked down those big free throws, and then we get to the moment where, Mike Brown, he said he told them to foul up 3 when their backs were turned. And so I don't know. At that point, it's down to the players to foul or obviously to not play off of a guy who's 1 pass away when they need a 3. And it's just, a couple individual mistakes. Kings just find ways to lose games time after time. In a game where you finally get the bench production that you've been looking for, obviously you don't have Sabonis, so you really need it. You have Trey Lyles coming in and giving you 20 points. You have Kevin Herter contributing with 8 points, and you get 5 from Keon, and you get 2 from Colby and 3 from Isaac. Like every little bit counts off the bench there. But Fox was asked in the post game, he's like, what do they need to do to, fix it or turn it around, whatever it was. And he just said, I don't know. It's like, that's kind of how I feel right now. It's like, it doesn't feel like there's a path. to turn this around with the problem that the Kings have right now. Because at some point, you just have to accept that this is who they are, and who they are is a team that's gonna make those defensive mistakes down the stretch, that isn't going to be able to outscore teams, that doesn't have the length to be able to defend these teams. And you would love to be able to go out and trade for a guy, but everyone's trying to trade for a 3-and-D wing. You know, it's not easy to get one. And so it's so bleak right now. We can go through some of the individual performances. DeMar, 36 minutes, 7 for 13 from the field, 19 points. He had 4 assists, only 1 turnover. I just wanted him to be more aggressive, take more than 13 shots. That's really my only thought about his game, is he should have taken some more shots when you have Sabonis out. Malik Monk, 5 for 11 from the field, 15 points. No assists from Malik Monk. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way it felt when he didn't have his pick and roll partner in Domantas Sabonis. He didn't make as much of an impact on the game. He became just a scoring guard out there, it felt like. He just wasn't on the ball as much, getting downhill and making things happen. And so he really missed Sabonis. And so definitely could have used a little more from both DeMar and Monk in this game. Fox, had a horrible first half in terms of scoring the ball, but I like the way that he was getting into the paint. And so he had a really good second half, and he was so good on both ends of the court in that fourth quarter. Was getting to his spots, knocking down shots. He was blowing by guys, and he was making the right passes. If only 4 assists will show up in the stat sheet, but he made so much more happen that benefited his teammates. 26 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He had 2 blocks on jump shooters, and then he makes the dumb play on the final possession, which kind of makes it all go away. And obviously it's not all on him at all, but it just kind of feels like it goes all away because of the loss. Keegan with 37 minutes, 4 for 11 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3, 11 points, 12 rebounds, a block, a steal. Had his moments guarding Cade. At other moments, Cade just did his thing. I thought he did a pretty good job down the stretch, though, defensively, and was working on the glass, but just needed some threes to go in. And, he took a lot of tough threes, but you need some of them to go in, especially if he's just kind of going to float around the perimeter and not be able to make things happen inside. He had those dunks early, but then after that, he just didn't get inside. And then you have Alex Len, 23 minutes, 1 for 1 from the field. He had 4 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. He did well passing out of the pick and roll. And the fact that he played 23 minutes is a good sign, because there have been other games where he started and he's played like 8 minutes. So you obviously know he was effective in some way in this game, and he was. And I think he kind of did all you could ask for a guy on a minimum coming in and starting a game. And then you have Trey Lyles off the bench, 25 minutes, 20 points, 5 for 8 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, 6 for 8 from the line, 8 rebounds. His rebounding, his boxing out was very, very good. Taking that charge, knocking down his threes, but also getting inside it and drawing fouls. Just a great all-around game from Trey Lyles that we just haven't seen much of this season. Obviously a lot because of injury. And so hopefully we can get this type of production from him more often, or, more like this, because this bench needs it. Herter, 23 minutes, 2 for 6 from 3, knocked down those 2 free throws. I thought his passing was very good. He had 3 assists. He had 5 rebounds, a steal, a block. And he also kind of had to take some tough shots just because the ball wasn't moving at times when he was in the game. But, it wasn't a bad game from Herter. Nia Keon playing 14 minutes and going 2 for 4. 4 or 5 points. And like I said earlier, I just like the confidence that he showed on the ball, and trying to make passes that would lead to good offense and trying to actually create out of the pick and roll. So a solid game from him. Colby got 11 minutes and he was fine. Like, was he the best? No, but for a guy that's just kind of out there to eat 11 minutes, I mean, I don't expect a lot from him. And so the fact that he wasn't like a big negative is the win for me. If he can just go out there and eat 11 minutes that you need off the bench, then that's fine. Because we have Devin Carter coming soon, possibly. He was just assigned to Stockton, so we'll see how that goes. And then you have Isaac Jones, 3 minutes, 3 points. And he just didn't look great defensively and was making some bad decisions offensively, so he got pulled pretty early on. Where do the Kings go from here? It's wild to think about how the Kings had won 4 out of 5 games coming into a 5-game homestand. And they were at 500, and now they're 5 games below 500. I mean, worst case scenario, obviously. And just like looking at some of the scores from before, there was a stretch of 9 games where the Kings had a leading scorer that wasn't Fox, and they won 5 of those games, so went 5-4. And then in the last 5 games, Fox has been the leading scorer in every single one, and they've lost every single one. And you can look back and just a lot of the games where Fox is the leading scorer, we lose. He scores 60, we lose, wasting these performances from Fox and him just not getting the help that he needs. Because obviously if someone else is the leading scorer, then it's like he's getting the help that he needs. It's like you always see those, like when Keegan Murray scores 15 or more points, the Kings have this record, and it's like a good record. And it's like, yeah, obviously, because it's like if he's giving you that and your regular stars are giving you what they need to give you, then you're probably going to win. But coming up, Kings go on the road to the Lakers. They've lost 3 games to the Lakers this season and recently lost 2, obviously. I don't know where the Kings go from here, because coming into this stretch at the start of this 5-game homestand, this was the time where the Kings had to turn the season around, and they did the exact opposite. So now, you're playing the Lakers, you're playing Dallas, although Dallas will be without Luka, Philly, Memphis, Golden State. You still have some home games coming up, unfortunately. I don't know what needs to change for this team. It doesn't seem like anything works. Even when the Kings play well and do the things that they need to kind of do as win conditions, they still find a way to lose the game. So, I don't know. My key to the next game is trade for Cam Johnson. That's how the Kings are going to win the next game. That's my key. So anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. As always, shout out to the members of this channel, No Rain and Joe Mama. The Kings, they really did the cruel thing of like giving us a taste of what winning feels like, and then just like pulling the rug from under us. Unfortunately, it never felt this bad when they were horrible, because when the Kings were always bad, it was just like, oh, you lose games, that's okay. I went into every game expecting a loss, and when they won, it was fun. Now it's just not fun. But hopefully when you think about it, this should be the lowest point, because it's like the expectations are at the highest, the performance is at the lowest. Can't get worse from here, right? So I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.